Hey everyone, welcome to TRCOA's Behind the Groove. I am Kfir Gov, the Advanced Pro Tools instructor at TRCOA, and today I'm going to talk about audio for film in Pro Tools. But first, we're going to do our pro tip in under 5 minutes.
Hey everyone, it's Quantum. I'm a student here at TRCOA, and today I'm going to be showing you how to sidechain in Ableton. Let's get started. So sidechaining basically just means using the output of one track, such as a kick drum, to alter the compression on another track. So basically, you're using an alternative audio source to trigger a processor. So here, I'm going to play the beat real quick. So many of y'all, whether it be hip hop or electronic music or pop music sometimes, especially in house music like this, it has like a pumping feel, whether it's like Chami, Jaws, Valentino Khan, Diplo, Calvin Harris, like really like any house song you put on, you're gonna hear this sidechaining effect. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna have the kick right here trigger a compressor that we're gonna put on this loop right here. And every time the kick hits, it's almost like it's gonna make the loop dip in volume. And that'll feel like it's breathing. So I'm gonna put the glue compressor on. You can use a multi-band compressor, you can use a normal compressor, but I like using the glue compressor. So we're gonna open this drop-down menu right here, and then we're gonna click sidechain. And what we're gonna do is take the audio from the kick right here, and now you're gonna see that once we start messing with the threshold, the attack time, the release time, and the gain, we're gonna start to get like a triggering effect from the kick. So, there we go. Quicker attack time, quicker release time, maybe some gain, a little bit of makeup. As you can see, it's like it's pumping. So let's take it off real quick. I'm gonna take it off and put it back on so y'all can see the difference. So now it's almost like the song is breathing. It's not so monotone and so boring. It's breathing, and this is a cool production cool production tip. It makes the song a little bit more interesting. But other than that, you can use it in mixing. So for example, if you have a bass line and a kick, and a lot of the times the kick and the bass can clash, the frequencies can clash. So what you do is you trigger again the kick to the bass, and that way every time the kick hits, the bass dips a little bit and gives room for those frequencies in the kick. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate that, and I'll catch you on the flip side.
Welcome back. If you end up finding this content useful, please like this video, and if you're new, please subscribe. We do new live feeds every week. Also, feel free to introduce yourself and ask questions in the chat as we go along. So let's get started. Let's kind of talk about audio for film in general. I thought this would be a cool opportunity to share with you guys something that I'm working on right now. I've been recently hired to do a Hollywood feature score for a film starring Elisa Milano. You probably remember her from the old Charmed series, right, with the witches and stuff, kind of fun stuff. This is kind of like a cool Christmas movie. Family drama that kind of has a twist about immigration, and you know, in this film we actually have a mother and a child. The mom is an immigrant that ends up getting taken away and deported by ICE, and Alyssa Milano is like this young lawyer who is taking the girl, her daughter, under her wing, who was born in the US, and kind of taking care of her and making sure that she is taken care of. I don't want to go too deep into the story of the film, but it's a cool film. and definitely contemporary messages. So I'm very proud to be part of this and to get this opportunity to do the score. So before we even go into the actual movie, let's talk about a few things that could be useful when working on audio for film. First of all, let's start with some basics. If you want, if you knew or didn't know, like, you can bring video files into Pro Tools and work on audio to match that video content. When you import a video into Pro Tools, what Pro Tools does is it automatically separates the audio from the video. If you want to bring a video into Pro Tools, just like you normally would import audio, you would go under File, Import, Audio. So instead of the audio, you would go to video, right? Command Shift Option I will be the shortcut to bring the video into Pro Tools. When you find the file, you just hit and import it. We don't have to do that because I already have the file inside my project here. But that's something that basically what will happen is automatically the video file will show itself. As you can see here, here's an example of the representation of the video file. And here above it, I have all kinds of like different audio files that were actually part of the film. And at this stage of the movie, it's still a work in progress. So some of not all the dialogues and not necessarily all the sound effects are already in there. But at this stage, I'm kind of working on the score with this this cut of the movie, which might not even be the final cut of the actual video. Like they may still shorten up some of the scenes. Today we're going to focus on just a couple scenes. And all right, so we understand how to bring the video into Pro Tools, right? Now, another thing that could be very useful is if you accidentally turn off here the video, then Command 9 in the numeric pad will bring it back on and off.
I have something for you.
See, we can kind of see how it plays out in Pro Tools, right? And cool thing is, wherever I kind of click in my grid, the video changes according to wherever my cursor is, right? Wherever I click on it. Cool. So another thing that could be like for example, if you don't have the numeric pad, you can also go up to Window, and under Window you will find also the tab of video, and you can just click that, and that will turn the video on and off as you wish. If you want to make the video larger, you just drag it from one of the corners, boom, and you can also move it around wherever you like in the screen so it doesn't kind of get in your way. All right? Okay, so we already know how to bring the video in. We already know how to, turn off the video, make it bigger, so on, so on. Next step is discussing maybe a little bit about optional grids that we can use when we work on video. Usually, when we are working on songs, we want to be working on a grid of bars and beats, right? So we can kind of set our tempo and our click, and have a structure to songs. We might want to look at minutes and seconds to know how long the song is, or where in the song we want to deal with one thing or another. But then also there are a lot of other grids that you can use in Pro Tools. If you go up here to right next to where the bars and beats you can see there's this little drop arrow. And if you click on it, it opens this menu of all these other grids that maybe you did not know existed. One of them is called feet and frames. And feet and frames usually is a good grid to work with in whenever you're working on video, because traditionally films are broken down to 12 to 24 frames per second. And basically what that means is that the presentation of the video that we're watching is built out of small pictures that are kind of like one after the other, and as they kind of roll one after the other, we see the motion of video, right? Kind of if you know what it was like back in the day when they created animation on paper and they would draw it and then they were kind of like slide the papers and you would see the movement. That's kind of what happens here, right? As you can see, right, I'm going to move my grid here for a second to feet and frames before it was set on bars and beats. And you can see how my grid is changing, right? Usually when we're on bars and beats, if I go to my grid, right, I can see quarter notes, half notes, eighth notes, just like music. But if I click on feet and frames here, all of a sudden my grid is built out of 1 foot, 1 frame, quarter frame, subframe. 1 foot, they call it 1 foot because just like inches, you have 12 inches in 1 foot, you have 12 frames in 1 foot. So right now you can see how everything is divided here with a grid that shows the 12 frames from each other. But if I click on this, it will divide into 12. You see that? All of a sudden we have a grid that is much more dense, and every one of these, right, if I put myself on grid mode here, if I move from one frame to the other, you can kind of see how the pictures change, right? Every one of those is a motion that is happening within the video. And if we play it one after the other,
I have something for you.
We can kind of see the motion of everything of the video kind of playing out. Now, why is this important? Because between putting it on 1 frame or even a quarter frame, which will divide every frame into 4 hits, right? You can see how now I have even more markers, right, of grid between every movement. Technically, quarter frame means that every frame now got divided into 4 subdivisions, right? So technically, each one of these, every 4 quarter frames, I should see the next movement of the video, right? You saw that? This was the first one, and then second quarter frame, third quarter frame, and boom, that's the next frame. We didn't have any movement in between. So this is a small enough grid to use in order to be very accurate on placing sounds or dialogue according to the movement of the film. And like we said at the beginning, right, everywhere I click, I can see how the video changes, and that allows me to kind of like be able to match the sounds and put the audio and edit it exactly where it matches things that are happening on video. All right, so feet and frames, when you're working on like sound effects and editing dialogue that was recorded for the film, because understand, usually when you're working on like properly budgeted films, while the all the acting is filmed and recorded with boom mics, you probably saw those, while it's being acted out, those boom mics cannot be seen inside the footage. So they're fairly far away from, the mouth or of the actors. So to do this in high quality, what they do is they shoot the film with those boom mics, but then they take that video footage and retrack all the dialogue again in a proper studio. And then you have to take all that recorded dialogue, high quality recorded dialogue, and match it to the actual acting. So they use the boom mics more as like a reference so you can later have an easier time matching the words to however they were acted while they were shooting the film. Not only does the dialogue need to happen, need to be re-recorded, but everything that happens in the shoot needs to be redone. Meaning if there was a scene that was recorded outside, you can imagine that with a boom mic, you're gonna have a lot of noise in there, right? And you can't get rid of it. So you have to place sound effects that represent or recreate the feeling of what it was to, you know, shoot that scene outside, right? If you have two people talking out in a park, you would probably hear birds in the background and air and a little bit of wind. All those are sound effects that are added after in post-production. That's why they call it post, okay? In our case today, we're not really dealing too much with those aspects because my job that I was hired to do here was to score the music, not so much be the final sound guy of everything that is, or I wasn't in charge of doing the Foley. Foley is everything that has to do with the sound effects. So let's take a look at a scene here for a second. We have this scene I picked this scene. This is the cool scene where the mom actually gets kind of taken away by ice. It's kind of like a very tragic moment in the film. Let me kind of turn off the music just so you guys could see what it sounded like before. Okay, we can actually do it like that. That'd be easier. I'll just solo this. All right, so let's just take a look at the scene. I'm gonna open this up a little bigger so you guys can kind of enjoy that. And here we go. This is before adding any music, or this is just the bare audio that they gave me at this point. It's not even the finished product. Here we go.
I have something for you.
Hi, ma'am. My name is Mike Sanchez. I'm a federal officer with ICE. Listen, I have a warrant for the arrest of Luisa Ramirez. Is she here?
Alejandra, we have to go. We have to go now. Misterita del Mar. Misterita del Mar, tienes que ser fuerte. It's me that they want, okay? I have to go back. If you stay here, they're gonna put you in foster care. I won't be able to find you.
I know.
We've been through this. You know the way to Harlingen, okay? You know the way. By Paco Juarez. He's on Old Ranch Road, okay? Te quiero tanto, mi vida. Mi estrellita del mar. You have to go. Te quiero mucho. You have to go. You have to go. Yes. Mi estrellita. Mi estrellita del mar. You have to go. Yes.
They're running! They're running! They're running! They're running!
Stop, immigration! Don't move!
No!
Don't move! Move your hands.
No!
Cool. So, right, it's kind of weird watching the scene. It has no music yet, but part of the job of, you know, adding music here is creating emotion to the scene. And in my mind, like, this is kind of like a scary scene. It's a very emotional scene. It's very tragic. It's sad. A lot of times when you think about those things, and writing music for it, right, you can either get inspiration by watching other films or TV series that you like, similar situations. In my mind, I was like, oh, this is kind of like a scary moment. I want to bring that out, and I want to really feel the tragedy that is happening here. So I'm thinking more like minor scales instead of major scales, which are very uplifting. Minor scales are more sad and depressing. So that's kind of what I was going for. And let me kind of play this now for you guys with the music that I came up with. Before I even go, you know what, we'll first play it, and then we're going to talk about like the different pieces of it. Let me see that these are all the parts that were recorded here. I think this is all correct, right? Yes. All right, let's just check it out. All right, now with the music.
I have something for you.
Hi, ma'am. My name is Mike Sanchez. I'm a federal officer with ICE. And I have a warrant for the arrest of Luisa Ramirez. Is she here?
Alejandra, we have to go. We have to go now. Señorita del Mar. Mi señorita del Mar, tienes que ser fuerte. It's me that they want, okay? I have to go back. If you stay here, they're gonna put you in foster care. I won't be able to find you.
No.
We've been through this. You know the way to Harlingen, okay? You know the way. By Paco Juarez. He's on Old Ranch Road, okay? Te quiero tanto, mi vida. Mi estrellita del mar. You have to go. Te quiero mucho. You have to go. You have to go. Yes. Mi estrellita. Mi estrellita del mar. You have to go. Yes.
They're running! They're running! They're running! They're running!
Stop, immigration! Don't move! No. Don't move! With your hands.
No.
Cool. So you kind of get the idea, right? The idea was to kind of create like this emotion of urgency and a little bit of a scary feeling, intensity, but then at the very end, when everything kind of goes to slow motion, it becomes really sad and tragic. So part of the parts that I kind of wrote here for the scene, if we break them down real quick, is, here, let me put this video right here, is first of all, I was looking for kind of like a loop that feels kind of intense. I guess that same week as I was working on this, I was seeing this kind of like TV series that was a thriller, and there were scenes where it felt a little intense. I was kind of inspired by that to kind of write this. If we break it down, this is a loop that I recorded for this. Right? And just kind of repeats. If you're intrigued, I believe that this loop came from Omnisphere. Omnisphere is a virtual instrument that is great for anything that has to do with anything cinematic, if you want to look it up. Omnisphere 2 is their latest version, I believe, and they have amazing all kinds of cinematic instruments and sound effects, and not only for those stuff, they also have a lot of good stuff for EDM music or hip hop. I definitely recommend for you guys to check it out. I believe this one came out of Omnisphere, and then I had this kind of like scary, also kind of like rhythmic, but still it has a note to it. Right? This was like a sound effect. And then you can see how together with the loop, right, it creates this vibe. Now, as I was doing this, I was also thinking about the key itself, because I knew that I wanted the ending to be in a certain key. So I had to take into consideration that this part would fit with this piano that comes at the very end. So the transition of the keys between the two parts feel very, very natural. To add more drama to the whole thing, I added these strings here. Let's listen to those. Oh, actually, those are not the right ones. Sorry, my bad. These are... This is the, yeah. It's like a cello right here. Here, let us play that in solo so we can kind of hear that. Right, just creates more tension. Right, and it keeps things interesting while we don't want this to stay stagnant all the time. Then about halfway through, this cello just comes in, just to create that extra tension. Because also the film is becoming more tense, right? The moment where, you know, they have to break away from each other and so on and so on. And I also added this little pad here that just creates chord tension with notes that are breaking that repetition. Right, it's a small thing, but every time it plays like a different note. Here it's the same, and then here it changes. Right, that's a note that's a little scary there. Right, and when you get the whole picture together, then you get this
Police! Hi ma'am, my name is Mike Sanchez. I'm a federal officer with ICE. Listen, I have a warrant for the arrest of Luisa Ramirez. Is she here?
Alejandra, we have to go. We have to go now.
Right, that pad kind of keeps it interesting, so it's not very repetitive. Then it gives that weird note. And then the cello comes in.
If you stay here, they're gonna put you in foster care. I won't be able to find you. We've been through this.
Builds that tension.
Okay? You know the way. By Paco Juarez. He's on Old Ranch Road, okay? Te quiero tanto, mi vida. Mi estrellita del mar. You have to go. Te quiero mucho. You have to go. You have to go. Yes. Mi estrellita. Mi estrellita del mar. You have to go. Yes.
They're running! They're running! They're running! They're running!
Stop, immigration! Don't move! Don't
Right, and there, all we have left here is kind of like the piano with a little bit of that cello and those pads. We have these pads, this cello, and I did this kind of like EQ sweep on it, so it's not as intense as here. It just became less intense. You hear less of the high frequencies of it. Then it opens up a little and back and forth to kind of create that feeling of, you know, that slow motion, which in the film, which has an emotion of by itself, right? Cool. So that's like one of the scenes, right? And you're thinking to yourself, oh wow, that's cool, right? You did all this thing. And then I sent this to the directors, and the directors came back to me and they were like, you know what, we think it's really cool. We love like the ending part where the whole slow motion thing is happening, but we felt it needed to be more emotional and less CSI in action. And cool, okay, so what exactly did you mean by that? So I asked them to send me a reference of something in the lines of what they wanted. A lot of times with these things, right, different people will view different, things from different perspectives, and there's no right or wrong here, but it is about, a lot of what we do here is about serving the client. This is not about what we want, this is about what they want. So I asked them to give me some kind of reference to what they had in mind, and then they sent me this little track here, which let's just listen to it real quick. So interesting enough, like the background of like they had a different idea in mind. They wanted something more emotional, more dramatic, or I'd say less intense, less scary. And I had to rethink this, and then I came back to them and rewrote the section, let go of all the scary loops and stuff, and I ended up doing something like this. So let me take this out. I believe those stay the same. Let's kind of listen to that. I don't remember if I added that. Okay, let's listen to this. And again, I had to think of, okay, this needs to fit the key with the part in the piano that ends. But let's see what I kind of came up with.
Hi ma'am, my name is Mike Sanchez. I'm a federal officer with ICE. Listen, I have a warrant for the arrest of Luisa Ramirez. Is she here?
Alejandra, we have to go. We have to go now. Miserita del mar. Miserita del mar, tienes que ser fuerte. It's me that they want, okay? I have to go back. If you stay here, they're gonna put you in foster care. I won't be able to find you.
I know.
We've been through this. You know the way to Harlingen, okay? You know the way. Find Paco Juarez. He's on Old Ranch Road, okay? Te quiero tanto, mi vida. Mi estrellita del mar. You have to go. Te quiero mucho. You have to go. You have to go. Yes. Mi estrellita. Mi estrellita del mar. You have to go. Yes.
No.
They're running! They're running! They're running! They're running!
Stop, Marisha, don't move! No. Don't move! Put your hand.
No.
And then I kept that part just the same as it was. So my point is, why am I sharing this with you? It's more just to give you a perspective of what it is to work with sometimes film directors. They have their own ideas of what they want and what they need and what they're looking for. And while you could do multiple things that all of them could work here, all of them would be awesome, your job is to service them and to service the product that they want to create. They have, this is their baby, they have something in their mind. And just like when we work with artists, it is their creation, and our job is to help them fulfill their vision, right? And serve that prospect. Okay, so I know that this scene was all very, very tragic. I'm gonna move away from it for a second, and we're gonna go to a more comic scene in the film. Let's take a look here. where is the comic scene? I believe it's, is it this? Let me see. All right, there it is. Okay, so very different vibe, going away from all the tragic and scary stuff. Let's kind of take a look at what that scene is like, and we'll talk about that. This is important. These we don't need. I think that is everything in this scene. Cool. So before I play that, I'm going to share with you like my own approach to how to go about these things. When I try to write these things, like where does it come from? Where does that inspiration come from? It's a big question that I don't know how to answer. I think a lot of it has to do with, you know, things that you've been exposed to in life. There's a famous documentary film that's called Everything is a Remix. If you've never seen it, I would definitely recommend that you check it out. It just shows how, you know, being original is very, very hard to do. But by being exposed to a lot of many different things that inspire you, you can take a little bit from this and a little bit from that, and you kind of remix it into something that is your own and different. And a lot of times when I write music, not only for this purpose, but in general, I try to imagine the music first. Meaning, instead of going, like I play guitar, that's my natural instrument. I also play keys enough to record and you know, then fix everything in MIDI. But I try not to go to the guitar because the guitar will kind of automatically put me in a certain mindset that fits, you know, what a guitar can do. And especially for something like this, I don't really want to be boxed down. I don't want my imagination to be boxed into what a guitar can do. So a lot of times I'll just imagine things and I'll kind of, you know, sing them out. And here's a good example. I'm going to share with you how I go about this. Right? So I have here an example of something that came to my mind. I was writing different ideas for this, but here's an example of me, right? This sounds stupid, but I was just singing this to myself, a general idea for the melody. Now, when I was doing this, I may have been, you know, half asleep at night. I don't know. These things come to me at like weird hours sometimes. Let's try another one. Here, I think. Here I was trying to mess with the guitar. Here I went to the piano already. Right? You get the idea. I'm just recording these things, even on my cell phone, just so I remember what I was even thinking about. Because if I don't record this on the spot, then it just vanishes into the nothingness of ideas and the void of everything that was forgotten. This allows me to kind of keep different ideas. You see, I have here all these different simple recordings, right? Just for the hell of it, just to remember what I was thinking about. So you just heard the and check out what I ended up doing at the end here, okay? So here, check it out.
Really?
Sure, why not?
Okay. I'm sure Chico would love that.
Oh.
I know. Why don't we have your friends over for a Christmas party? Maybe with all the commotion, Chico will come back.
Right, so again here, this was supposed to be a comic scene where the dog kind of runs away and so on. And there are a few scenes in the whole film with this dog, which it does all these kind of messy stuff. And it's funny scenes. So the goal here was to make it very light and fun. And because this was a Christmas movie traditionally, then I was thinking, oh, maybe like those bell sounds. And something simple that was in my imagination, I ended up recording here with a few little sounds. I ended up using like a cello here for this. Right, and I ended up using this bell sound. And the movie directors were like, oh, this is really cool, we love it. But they wanted something to make an impact of a feeling, almost like a cartoonish feeling, which will enhance the emotion of, oh, the dog ran away, and you know, try to highlight that in the film. So I ended up using like this weird sound here that sounds almost cartoonish as the dog kind of gets away. Right? Kind of funny, almost childish. And then I also used another sound here, sound effect, which almost sounded like a little close to what those bells sound like, but when the actress actually recognized that the dog left her. Right? So small little things that kind of create the feeling of the overall thing. Also understand that probably at the end product of this film, you're probably going to have some sound effects of the dog running away, which are still missing here, right? You don't have like her steps here, you don't have the sound of the street, right? A lot of these pieces of the puzzle are still missing. Those are sound effects that the Foley people will probably add later on.
Oh. Cool.
All right. One last thing that could be a cool tip for when working on film. You can see that I needed to put this sound effect, right, in exactly where the dog where she lets go of the dog, right? And the cool thing about Pro Tools is that once you cut off all the headroom, right, from that comes before the sound itself, now I can pretty much move this around, and you see how the picture kind of changes as I'm moving the file. Oops, Command Z that. That allows me to really, basically what we're seeing is the beginning of this file, of this audio file, is right now placed where that moment in the film is happening. And if I move it left or right, you can see how the frames change. So I can really move it and place it exactly in the moment of boom. You see? That's probably the moment where she lets go of the leash, right? And let's play it back. Right? And that's how you kind of that's how Pro Tools allows you to place those sound effects exactly where they fit in the film. Cool. Well, if you have any questions, you know, feel free to add it in the chat. Let me actually take a look if you guys asked any questions real quick. All right, I don't see any questions, which is cool. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all there is to it for today. Thanks everybody for watching. If you are enrolled, please go to the seminars tab on the My TRCOA website and take the quiz over tonight's lesson. And if you need to book one-on-one time with me, please send me an email or a text. If you aren't enrolled, go to trcoa.edu to find out more info. Also, please post in the chat subjects you'd like to see for our upcoming live streams. And as always, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you on the flip side.